everyone, to the latest episode of Money Mindset. I'm your host, Allison Tate. Today, we're going to have a very interesting conversation around how mental health impacts your finances. With me today, I have a very special guest. Aja Evans is a licensed mental health counselor, speaker, and author specializing in financial therapy. With over a decade of experience, Asia is determined to help more people break the taboo of keeping money and emotions secret. In addition to her practice, Asia is the president elect on the board of the Financial Therapy Association and is the author of Feel Good Finance coming this December. Asia has been featured in a variety of major news outlets, including the New York Times, Business Insider, NerdWallet, Time, and Teen Vogue. Asia is on a mission to get more people engaged in living their best lives while attuning to their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors around money. Outside of work, you can find Aja chasing after her two young children as they hunt down the next delicious place to eat. Welcome, Aja.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to chat and to just dive in.
I am so excited for you to be here as well. With May being Mental Health Awareness Month, we are just trying to leverage that to really kind of dig a little bit deeper to help people understand how their emotions, past traumas might affect their relationship with money. So, can we first explain what financial therapy is and how it differs from traditional therapy and financial advice?
Sure. So, financial therapy, the way the Financial Therapy Association looks at it, there are many definitions, as you can imagine. And individually, people will have their own definitions and how they work. But the definition that I work under the most is financial therapy really is about understanding where your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors around money come from and how that impacts your relationship with money. So when we start thinking about who is a financial therapist, where are they coming from, what is the scope, I like to explain it to people almost as a spectrum. So there's a side where people are coming from mental health professions. That's their home discipline. So that is me. I'm a licensed mental health counselor. I practice out of New York City. So I'm licensed in New York State. But along that spectrum are coaches as well as other financial professionals on the other end. And when I say financial professional, it could be somebody who is a certified financial planner or a certified financial advisor, a wealth manager. So think about that as the spectrum, but really our work that we're trying to do is really tap into the emotional side of money because money is emotional. I can't think of anything that's more emotional than, can I take care of myself? Can I take care of my family? So when you're thinking about potentially working with a financial therapist, you want to understand what their home discipline is and what you want from them. So whenever I have prospective clients come to me, I let them know, listen, I am here for your emotions, for your behaviors. We're going to dive into a little bit about your childhood and also look at a lot of your patterns around money and what your relationship with money looks like. I will not be telling you where to put your investments or advising you about moving money at all. I may give you some personal finance education and point you to the right resources, but if it comes to you kind of managing your money and what you're doing with some of your investments or creating a certified financial plan, that's not going to be me. I would definitely refer you to somebody who's more on the professional financial side of it.
Got it. So, do you normally work in partnership with advisors?
Yes, I can. So there are some advisors who will refer some of their clients to me and just say, hey, I think you two might be a really great fit. Let's set something up. And then it is on me and the potential client to schedule and get it moving. Or there are times when I've worked with clients who are now ready to take the next step in their financial journey, who need a planner or wealth manager or whatnot to kind of start moving their assets.
I think that's great. So I've been a certified financial planner and a financial advisor for 14 years. And when I first started in the business, it was very much just around like investments, right? Maybe some estate planning, but investments, like what's your asset allocation? What's the next big thing that we're going to invest in? But slowly over time, you see more of that human element and the psychology of money really start to like weave its way into everyday conversations where I find myself realizing one day it's not about the money.
No, no.
To my surprise, like everything, we think we're doing in the best interest of our clients, like we're creating this nice and tidy estate plan. But why, right? There's emotions around why someone would want to protect their legacy and protect their family. Like, why are we creating this investment allocation? It's not so that it just looks pretty and everything's balanced, but more so because it gives that client security that they'll be able to sustain themselves and their family for retirement. And just there may be other instances that have come up just in my own professional career where I have found clients who have just been stuck. They're
Yes.
stuck making a decision that that they know is in their best interest to do. They just may have some knowledge gaps. Maybe they can't trust themselves to make decisions. They may find themselves in very have some emotional spending patterns that we need to try to sort out. And then I'm just like, oh, wow, okay, this is kind of out of my scope.
That's when you come to me.
So it's great that, and to be candid, I didn't even know there was such a thing called a financial therapist.
Yeah, it's very new, so and it's small, right? And we're in a growing field. So because it is so new, and when you think about mental health, like this is a giant industry, right? And you are looking for such a particular niche, um, which has started around kind of like the 2009, I believe, is when the Financial Therapy Association started, and it has grown immensely from that, but still we need to like get bigger and kind of bring people into the fold of understanding how important this is, because the CFPs are definitely experiencing exactly what you're talking about, like wondering, hey, we created this beautiful plan and you seem so on board, but then you go home and what's happening, what's coming up for you that you're getting stuck. And that's where I come in to kind of help people understand why it is hard to stick to the plan and what patterns keep coming up for you over and over again, even though you quote unquote know the right thing to do. But why does it feel hard? And usually that's either emotional or psychological in terms of kind of some of their lived experiences.
Absolutely. So on your website, you mentioned having your own financial awakening. Can you share more about that experience and how it influenced your approach to financial therapy?
Sure. So this was before I was a financial therapist or telling anybody I was doing this work. I was in my mid 20s. I had just moved to New York City. So both of my parents are from New York City, but that's not where I grew up. I grew up upstate New York. And when I got down here, I was making about $60,000, which to me was amazing. I was making all of the money as like a 20 something year old. I'm like, $60,000, I should be able to do whatever I want with that kind of money. Some adults don't make that much money. So, and at 26, I was not considering myself like a real adult, to be clear. So I was living it up. I was going to brunch. I was hanging out with my friends. I was going to happy hours. I kept my car, which also came with a car payment. I was getting my nails done, sometimes going shopping after brunch, just living the 20 something like Sex in the City vibe of New York City. And if you've ever looked at rent prices or looked at the cost of living of New York City, that lifestyle was not covered by my salary. And I was so confused. I thought, what is happening? Why isn't my savings going up? Why am I still having credit card debt if I'm just making the minimum payments? I don't understand what's going on. And that really was the catalyst to me diving into personal finance education. So at that time, we didn't have nearly as many like social media platforms or things that people were talking about finance in general. It was very much so like you have to go search it out. And I did. So I was reading blogs, I was getting books, and just really fell in love with personal finance. And I thought to myself, when I was having some of these issues and trying to understand, I cannot be the only person who feels weird about their money. I cannot be the only one who feels a little embarrassed if I can't go on that trip or I have to say no to my friends to things. And that's when I started bringing it into the therapy room. So when my clients would just hint at or just mention, oh, I'm a little stressed about money. I'd be like, okay, tell me more. What's going on?
It's always tell me more.
Exactly. I'm like, give me the goods. What's really going on? Because what I was trying to do was really peel back that layer of secrecy and stop this. We can't talk about it. We should just know. We should just kind of deal with it in secrecy. And that really was the catalyst of me figuring out that, oh, there's something here. People need to talk about their money. It's stressing people out. It's making them anxious. Sometimes it's making people really depressed or feel bad about themselves. And I want to be somebody who can help.
Absolutely. Well, you can't heal what you don't reveal.
Exactly.
So I think that was a line from Jay-Z.
Yeah, I'll take it. Yeah, he knows.
But it stuck with me because it's so
Yeah.
true, right? In all things. Can you tell me how mental health directly impacts people's financial decisions and behaviors?
Yeah. So the thing about our mental health is I think it's so stigmatized and I think it's getting a lot better currently, but everybody's got mental health. Like, how are you feeling? What's your mood? What's going on with you emotionally? That is our mental health. I think a lot of times people hear mental health, they're like, oh, are you trying to diagnose me with something? I'm like, no, but you can feel anxious and not be diagnosably anxious, right? Like not have generalized anxiety disorder. Anxiety, having that feeling is a normal human emotion that we all experience at different times in our lives. So really understanding where's my mood, what's going on for me. When people are looking at what colleges to go to and understanding what they can or cannot afford, they're, as a subset of group, I'm part of them millennials who went to school and were okay signing on the dotted line and signing up for student loans and then coming out and being like, wait, I have to pay back $30,000, but my job is only paying me XYZ. How? Like, what? I'm supposed to pay all these other things. How am I supposed to survive? So, that experience can be very, very anxiety provoking. And what I'm talking about is how do you start handling some of those emotions that come up when you have to say no, when you are feeling broke? So many people are just isolating and they're staying home and being like, I can't do anything, so I just stay home. I'm sad about it. I'm depressed about it. I am feeling really lonely. I'm constantly ruminating over my money. I'm constantly thinking about it. I'm losing sleep. My stomach hurts. I feel like I might not be able to perform in the bedroom because I'm so stressed out. I'm having trouble breathing. There's so many different physical aspects that come up because we're stressed, because our mood is being impacted by our money. So sometimes people don't think about it that way because they're like, oh, well, I'm not depressed. Like, no, 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 that's a bad thing. Like, I can't possibly be depressed. I still smile. I still laugh. But what I'm saying is that sometimes it looks a little bit different. Sometimes it looks like, wow, you checked your account and now you're like, I'm not doing anything for the weekend. I'm staying home and I'm crying because I'm so broken. I'm so afraid and I'm scared. What am I going to do? How can I get out of this? I don't know. Or it looks like I'm not checking any of my accounts because I'm too anxious to see what is actually going on. So I'm just hoping and praying that the card goes through and I don't know, and hopefully I'm not embarrassed or feel weird. And I'm saying let's talk about it. Let's get into it and hopefully get to a place where you feel better.
So you said something very interesting that really struck me, and it's just that when I hear, speaking for myself, Mental Health Awareness Month, my initial thought was this is a month for people who might have anxiety, ADHD, depression. And I know I can't be the only one who thought that. But the fact that you're saying, no, it's more about your mental state in these moments
Mm-hmm.
that impact your financial decisions
Right.
brings like a whole different level of just awareness to the conversation. So, for example, last week I had a couple of prospective clients reach out and like they were kind of panicked saying, I need you to put me on a budget. I got to be on a budget. My spending is out of control. Like that's what I want to talk about on the call. Can you put me on a budget?
Yep.
And my answer was yes and
Mm-hmm. Yep.
tell me more, right? Around like what has been going on in your life that you think has triggered this overspending.
Right.
because I don't care about the budget. You will never um, stick to the budget if
Yeah.
I don't uncover the why
Yeah.
first. Okay. What are some common signs that someone may be experiencing any type of financial anxiety or stress?
hmm it looks like exactly what I was just talking about. If you are isolating, if you are constantly thinking about your money, if you find yourself really scared, and I don't think everybody understands that they may feel scared. They just feel like, oh, I'm not checking it. They're avoiding looking at their money. So if you're avoiding opening the credit card statement or opening the email or opening, your bank account app to just check what's going on and you're just kind of hoping and wishing and praying, that to me is a sign that you might be stressed out or anxious about it. If anytime you bring up money or money comes up in a conversation, you're starting to get uncomfortable. You might be sweating. You might be like, oh, am I breathing the same way? Don't realize, but I'm holding my breath or I'm panting or I'm breathing really quickly. Those are signs that you might have some, a little stress or a little anxiety around money. If you find you're thinking about it all the time, ruminating about it, waking up in the middle of the night, those are definitely signs that you might be a little anxious or stressed out. And I think people know. People don't want to say it, but they know I'm really stressed out about my money. I'm very concerned about my stability or my safety or what's going to happen to my family. You know. Mhm.
Yes, I know, right? As an entrepreneur, and as this show is for other entrepreneurs, we know that we are on a daily basis. There are very high highs and very low lows, like
Yes.
on a weekly basis.
Yes.
And there may be months where you are giving out, in terms of paying your vendors, paying your employees. You may be giving out more than what's coming in,
Yes.
and that inherently causes a lot of stress for people. And again, I don't think we talk about it enough, and there's still so much shame around it. But what are some techniques when people come to you that you provide them with to help deal with their financial stress?
Sure. So I'm definitely going to answer that, but I also want to say specifically about entrepreneurship. It is so different when you are running your own business, when you are trying to grow, when you are trying to scale, when you're trying to get the support to be able to do that, to then make more money. I think we glorify it and has been glorified so much in social media and just talking about like we are all walking down the runway getting on a private jet. And while that may be the case for some people, and that's amazing, there, to your point, there are such ups and downs when your income may be variable. When you're like, okay, we killed it last month, but this month, I don't know what happened. Everybody's outside, so they're not coming into the store as much. And now you're dealing with the highs and the lows. We definitely don't talk about that like niche perspective of being an entrepreneur, of like, wow, I have to make this work, not just because this is important to me and it's my passion, but my family may be relying on me to do that. And that is stressful. Like I have felt the stress myself of what that means. So I just wanted to just touch on that really quick because entrepreneurs, we're out here fighting for our lives. We're out here trying to make this happen. And I'm giving everybody the credit where credit is due because it is very hard to keep doing it and keep trying to run your business because it's important to you. Now, what do I tell people? And I'm like, okay, how do we overcome this? How do we move forward? You have to know your numbers. You have to look. And I know it's anxiety provoking. And with some of my clients, I'm like, okay, let's look together. And I tell my clients, I'm like, listen, our first session, I'm not going to have you look at your money. You need to get to know me a little bit. I want to get to know you. I want to understand some of your money patterns. And then after I understand the patterns, then we can look at your money. So you can like take a deep breath for the first few sessions, right? But after that, we got to know the numbers. So let's look at them. And I will sit with my clients and I will look with them, or I'll have them tell me virtually. And it's not so much that they, need me to hold their hand, but they need to be able to say some of these numbers out loud. I want them to be able to say it so they see it. You see it, you said it, you're hearing it. Okay, this is where I'm at. That is the first step.
Mhm.
And then knowing what you need to do with them, right? Like how much do you have coming in? How much do you have going out? How much do you need? Whether it's about your business or your personal life, how much do you need to make sure that you're okay? And then what are we doing to remedy that? So that's a little bit more of the concrete. And after that is more of the emotional aspect. So because in my process, I have people go through where they came from. What did money look like growing up? How was it talked about? What were conversations? Were there any major money milestones that happened in your life? What I'm trying to gather in somebody sharing their story, and they have these moments too. I just had a client have one the other day. Who's an entrepreneur have this moment of like, oh my goodness, I'm realizing that I thought this was coming from one situation, but it was really coming from another. And I didn't realize it until I said that out loud to you, sharing my story. And what we're doing is trying to see where the patterns are so that you know, okay, when you know that pattern's happening, how do you cope? Are you overspending right now? Are you avoiding your money? Now, how do we replace that with a healthier coping skill for people? So that could be, okay, you're going to look at your money today. You're going to check every Friday. Great. Make sure you go work out. Make sure you talk to that friend. Make sure you've eaten something. Have you slept a good night's sleep? We're not going into stressful situations at a negative. Like we need to be going as neutral as possible. So a lot of those techniques of just realizing what the pattern has been with money and then realizing what you need to do to kind of start shifting it has been really helpful for my clients.
I agree with that. I try to stress to clients like, hey, let's just sit down, like you said, look at the numbers. And like sometimes once you put it like plot it out on paper, there's always a few aha moments. I think the first for people tends to be, oh my God, I didn't realize that my eating out bill is more than my mortgage.
Exactly.
But
Mhm.
like once you see the number, right? But those like, $25 here, $50 here, you don't really think about it. But
Right.
when it all adds up, you're like, oh, they're always surprised. Everyone is surprised by their food bill.
Because it doesn't seem so bad. I still get surprised. Like I'm like, where did that come from? Where did that come from? And how? And I think when you look at it, and that's why it's so easy. One, we're already disconnected from our money because we're usually not handling cash anymore. It's harder to hand over cash for some people than it is to just swipe because you're not seeing it leave your account. And if you're not checking, you definitely don't see it leaving your account. But when you see a lump sum of like, oh, we spent 1,500, what?
Yeah.
1,500 who? How? Yeah,
It always catches people that, and then having business owners like really like let's critically evaluate your P&L, like your profit and loss statement, so we can really see like where some of the spending is, because like we're looking at these lower profit margins in their business, not realizing that they have all this extra overhead, and maybe they have all these like subscriptions and technology, and maybe there's some extra staff hanging around,
right.
that they might need to trim.
Yeah,
And so they're like, oh, all of a sudden we make these changes and their profitability goes up, 20, 30%.
right. So
And
that's
so
why
it's
it's so
really just,
important.
it's looking at the numbers,
You have
right?
to. Yeah.
You have to look at the numbers. So what advice would you give to someone who feels overwhelmed by their financial situation and doesn't know where to start?
Yeah. So first I would tell you to breathe. Like let's just take a moment to take a nice deep breath. Because what happens is that when we are stressed out and when we are in crisis, we are trying to run around with our heads like bobbling and weaving all over the place, thinking that we're going to solve something right in that moment. And we're not. What you're trying to do is get yourself out of the crisis. But what happens is that in that crisis, you're not having long term thinking. It's short term. You're like, what do I need to do right now to feel better because it's uncomfortable? So that's why it's so important to take a breath and just kind of try to regulate your body, try to calm down. When you are calm, then you can go to the numbers, right? Then you can say, okay, let's take this hard look. What do I need? I need to make more money. I need to maybe trim some things for my business. I need to trim my eating out budget. I need to create a budget for myself. doing that when you're calm allows you to be a little bit more long term with what you're trying to do versus the short term. And then let's evaluate your emotions, right? What's coming up? Am I scared? Am I worried about my family stability? Am I worried that I'm going to mess it up? What are the things that are emotionally keeping you stuck and keeping you in a place that you feel uncomfortable in, and what do you need to do to start addressing those? One activity that I learned from taking the trauma of money course is that it was writing a letter to money. So it's like a dear money letter, and write the letter of all of the feelings. I want feelings, right? I don't want numbers. I want feelings about you and your money. And a lot of times people feel like money is their enemy and they want it, but it's an enemy. So it's like this, we're frenemies. I want you. I don't want you. I'm uncomfortable. Like, why are we in this toxic relationship? And money does not care about our emotions. Money is just a tool. And we don't realize that when we are stressed the hell out. So we need to just calm down, recognize what's coming up for us and why and where that may be coming from, which could be something in your past or fear or just anxiety. And then how do you stick to your plan? What do you need to do? How do you put the necessary supports in place so that you can work your plan? If it's a financial plan that you made, if it's just like paying off your debt, whatever it is, making ends meet for your family, yourself. How can you work the plan without finding yourself getting too unhinged or upset? Because when we're just reaching for things to cope and help us feel better so quickly.
Those are all great tips. When someone's ready to take the next step on their money journey, how can they contact you?
So I am on all the socials. So my handle mostly on Instagram is Asia E Therapy. So AJAE Therapy. You can also contact me through my website, which is Asia Evans. I'm like, what is my website? AsiaEvansCounseling.com. And also my book will be out, Feel Good Finance, December 3rd. And that like is really diving into the psychology of human beings and our desire for community, and how we may do certain things that either help us get into communities or take us further away from communities that we've been through in the past, and some of the different things that we can do to kind of heal what's going on for us emotionally.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Asia. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Allison. This was great.